Hey YouTube, Do-It-Yourself Junkie 369 here with a temporary repair on my 2008 Audi A4. This repair is supposed to be temporary, but I will say it lasted through a 2,000 mile trip.
As you can see, the exhaust completely separated where it enters the clamp connecting the downpipe to the center section of exhaust. I have ordered some new pieces to repair this properly, but it'll be about a week before they arrive and I'm able to work on it. So I'm going to attempt to do a temporary fix using a couple clamps and some sheet metal. So you're going to loosen the nuts. Once they're loose, to remove the clamp, you're going to move the exhaust off to one side and then slide the clamp off. I haven't loosened this yet because I'm holding the camera, but it looks like this one's already snapped in half, and instead of putting a wrench on here, I'm just going to cut it off using a saw. Now I've cut through the clamp with the saw. As I said before, you just slide the exhaust to the side and remove this clamp. As you can see, there's about 2 inches of pipe that was inside the clamp. And then on the other side, you would have had 2 inches of pipe before it broke off. Current plan for this section is to get a piece of sheet aluminum, roll it into a tube, slide it over both sections of exhaust like the clamp was originally, and then have 2 pipe clamps holding those sections together. That way most of the exhaust goes out the mufflers and is silenced, and this piece isn't vibrating on the cross brace right here, which is making the car undrivable. This is the side that broke, well, it's still installed on the car, and you can see the section of broken exhaust still stuck in there. And looking at this side, you can see that the exhaust went in there on both sides and then had about an inch of separation between the pipes. So basically, we're just recreating this clamp with a piece of sheet metal and 2 pipe clamps. The sheet metal is aluminum, so it's a little bit easier to bend, and it is 25 gauge, and then the pipe clamps there are stainless steel. Its adjustable range is from 1 3/4 to 2 3/4 inch. And this pipe should be 56 millimeters, which is right about 2.2 inches, or just under 2 inches and a quarter. So I have a piece of 2-inch PVC, and as you can tell, that's going to be about the right diameter for our clamp. So to form the sheet metal, I'm just going to hold it up against the PVC and then roll the metal around the PVC. And that's created our tube. Now we just need to go in and cut this piece to get rid of all the excess. So using a straight edge, I'm going to trace a line to cut off this excess material. Where I want my line at is just a little bit past this, where this overlap is going to occur. I do want some overlap in this. If you're worried about sealing this and making a more permanent repair, where you have your overlap is going to leak a little bit, and you can use some exhaust sealer on that overlap. But this is meant to be a short-term repair to get the car running while the parts come in. And then just use a pair of shears to cut this metal. This is another reason I went with the real thin 26 gauge metal and aluminum, is to make cutting this material fairly easy. Always when sheet metal, make sure you wear a set of gloves. Supposedly these gloves aren't cut safe, but they'll definitely keep you from tearing up your hands on the sheet metal. There's the finished piece of sheet metal. Now we're just going to add the clamps to it and slide it onto the exhaust under the car. So this piece is quite a bit larger than it needs to be. So don't forget you wanted 2 inches of overlap on the broken part. Then theoretically it could get cut right in here. And I think I'm going to do that because I only bought 2 clamps. And if I was going to use this whole length, really ideally it should get clamped in at least 2 more places. So I'm going to go off screen, cut this down the size, and then come back and put it on the car. Here's the finished piece. I did not do such a good job of cutting this side evenly, as you can tell, but the most important thing is notice that I have the length of the clamp plus some distance here to make sure I have a good overlap where that piece broke off. Now we're going to loosen these clamps a little bit, go in and slide it on the exhaust. Installation of this thing should be identical to the clamp that you just removed. So you'll pull this to the side and slip the repair on. Now what I'm going to do is face the seam of this repair towards the ground. That way I'm not using any sealant, and if there's a leak, it's going to be leaking towards the ground instead of blowing hot exhaust gases up on the shield, heating up the car, and possibly damaging something. But the main focus of my repair is to keep this piece from vibrating on the crossbar. Slides over, and then over the broken piece. And then using a flathead screwdriver or socket, tighten the repair down. And as you can tell, I'm able to slip my hand under this piece without moving it, which means that this exhaust, as long as this repair holds, will not be hitting this cross member. The other important thing is I don't have anything crazy up here that's going to interfere with the drive shaft with this repair.